Hello, everyone. Welcome to VR Verdict Podcast, episode 141, our weekly show where we talk about everything VR. I am PJ.
I'm Wookie.
And we're joined today by the Home X team and Ting, Donald, and Ian. How's it going, everyone?
Hello.
Hello.
For all intents and purposes, Mr. Snowman here is Ian, so he has a body. But yeah, thanks for joining us. How's it going over there in London?
It's good. It's terrible weather today. I mean, it's not very surprising. London is mostly with like terrible weather, so it's good to be in somewhere protective like here. Like good.
Yeah. I'm in Wisconsin, so I think it's a very similar vibe weather-wise. So.
Oh, okay, yes.
Nice and cold and snowy here, so.
Really? Oh,
Snowman.
nice. I mean, snow is better than just like a lot of like
Just
rain.
pure wet rain.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel bad because I'm on the East Coast, kind of on the southern side of the U.S., so it's like probably going to be 70 degrees and sunny today.
Nice.
Sorry.
Yes.
I'd like some snow. I miss it.
But anyway, you guys are here to talk about your live experience. I'll kind of let you guys explain it, so I don't do it any injustices. But yeah, if you just want to kind of explain what you guys are up to and what your roles are, that'd be awesome.
Sure. Yeah, so we are here to talk about, I mean, I'm starting kind of, I'm Ting, and I'm the director of this project, HomeX. I'm a director, musician, and yeah, I mean, I will give the microphone to Ian and Donald later, just briefly talk about this project first. So HomeX is a live performance, and then we produce this performance through like theater, music, and like gaming and VR technology. So where do we use VR here is like we create a 3D world. So which you can see a little bit on the trailer, like behind us. It's like so we create this like 3D world, and then both people from Hong Kong, the performer, and then the performers in the UK can collaborate together through wearing a VR headset and then connecting each other in the 3D world. So Donald, he is the 3D designer for us, and he did the like all the beautiful like the world like 3D models, and Ian is a creative technologist who built the world basically, and then we all kind of like collaborate together to create the story and how the dancer and musician are like what their characters are, and also the digital audience will join this performance as avatars and running around in the world as the native creatures in this place. And the dancer, the two dancers like who come in through VR and the depth sensing like cameras, I will let Ian to talk much more about this. So they come in this world as invaders, and one from Hong Kong and one from the UK. And so then through this way, and we have performers from different places and work, like collaborate in this 3D space. And then we have like, we show this like performance in two different ways. One is like digital ones. So audience are like avatars. They can do a lot of things like playing the game, but the thing they do will push the story forward like a game, but there are live performers as well. And so we also do a physical live performance where we are performing. The first tour is in the UK. So we are in York. We're going to be in York, Cambridge, and London Barbican, like so where the audience, the live audience, the physical audience will come into the space and see this 3D world like on a projector screen, like an immersive like projector screen, while they see half of the live performers perform live in the space, and they see the other live performer like on the 3D screen. And then so it's a little bit weird. They just see like one live performer interact with the other one, but they don't see the other one physically. They just see them like they see them on the screen, but they will be both kind of like wearing a VR headset to dance with each other. So that's how we create this work.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's really cool. To start things off, Donald came in and punked me though. He said he was one of the dancers. I don't know. No, just kidding.
Great. I don't know. Maybe that's the next thing you want to do in this project.
Yeah, I have to try it out. I mean, it's always an interesting part of it that I've always wanted to kind of like delve into.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I'm just kidding. You said you said you're the artist, and you is it the character creation you're doing?
Yeah, so in terms of the general 3D kind of assets that you see in the whole world, was kind of materialized and produced myself. And then Ian takes all of that together and composes it together in the scene.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that we can talk. I mean, so Donald, you can talk a little bit more about how you create this thing and what's the inspiration, and then Ian can talk further about how he create the whole system and because it's really is the one thing very special is that we use the depth sensing camera. So like Ian designed the whole like a thing, so where the audience in this world see the two dancers. It's not like motion. The mostly what people do is like motion capture, but we choose to use the depth sensing camera to capture them. So it's a particular aesthetic way, and then to put them in a VR. So they are one way like scanned by the camera, but the other way of like dance together in a VR. So Ian can talk more about the whole system. And Donald, if you start with like how you create this, like what inspire, and then so kind of how you create this 3D world.
Yeah, I mean, the one of the things was so when we first did this project, it was initially commissioned by Arts Council, British Council Hong Kong, and it was all about looking at this kind of whole kind of connection between the UK and Hong Kong, and the kind of migration of how the diaspora kind of formed, and then this kind of connection back to its home place. And in terms of the actual, I mean, it was quite difficult. It was quite difficult to almost, when you have a blank canvas and trying to figure out what is technically home, and how would you produce this as part of a story. And so a lot of the assets that you see in there are partially inspired by some of the kind of key elements that you see in like Hong Kong. So for example,
Nice.
there is so you can see in the image, there's like this really large tree, and that formed a tree which was during the early migration of people from China into Hong Kong. Inside one of the temples near my village my family are from, there is a little kind of plaque and a little story talking about people. In a sense, there was like, the temple next to the small tree. That tree later became this massive like banyan tree, and that formed the kind of central location to where this kind of community kind of gathered. So the whole space become this kind of more like circular, kind of almost like arena that kind of divided both in terms of two kind of clear areas, being the UK and Hong Kong on one side. And all the elements are feeding into that, have small details like the trees and the types of fruits and the kind of the colors are linked to certain elements both from the east and the west.
That's really cool.
And it adds loads of kind of like, kind of like the certain like myths attributed to both kind of Eastern mythology and Western mythology kind of juxtaposed together, because in a sense that there are similarities in both that really inspired quite a lot of works. But also it's very collaborative in terms of how we work, in terms of also the design, because we sit down and we discuss with both Hong Kong and UK and understand, what do you think home is, and that would slowly feed into the work slowly.
That's really neat. We've had a lot of guests from a lot of different cultural backgrounds, and it's one of the things, like I told you, like I live in Wisconsin. Not a lot of outside influence makes it to Wisconsin, so it's great to see that, and especially like in gaming and VR apps that are more non-gaming. It's really really interesting and really amazing to me to see the cultural backgrounds, because again, like, it'd be a long journey to get over there and see these things for myself. So groups like you guys, where you're bringing it into people's homes and all that, like, I'm super appreciative. I really enjoy seeing that kind of thing. I'm glad you're like blending all that together in your setup. So that's really cool.
Thanks.
And it's interesting what unites our different cultures around the world. That there's some stories about trees.
Yeah,
that's kind of the center point of the whole piece, is like the myths around destroying trees and destroying our kind of our roots and our background. But then, also after that.
Yeah, I mean, Ian, you can talk a little bit more about, because I mean, that's starting with your idea in terms of how to use VR to connect to space and then to have a performance which can be joined together from to remote space. I mean, that's what your idea and you always want to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, since the Connect came out, like 12 or something, I was daydreaming about putting on a gig in one place, and and having a second gig in a remote location and joining them together somehow. And then I was talking to Antig about this, and we were talking about having two dancers that dance with each other. The original idea was maybe dance around in a tree, like people kind of dance or something. And then Donald was already looking at trees and the temples in Hong Kong and together. And then because she likes to be dramatic, she was like, "Why don't we cut all the trees down? Everything can die."
And that's very depressing. So like kind of like how with it, and I mean that's become like a really good gaming kind of like a direction, because then the avatars kind of like inside of the game, they started by they plant the fruits and then to first plant the seeds and then to just plant to make this world beautiful. But then when there are invaders coming and they just start to cut the trees, and so they cut the trees and build the house, cut the trees and build the house, and then their avatar will also change. When they cut more trees and build a house, and until they cut like the invader with them like to cut the biggest tree, so like the whole world is like collapse. That's basic. So then the avatar really join the story. So I mean, I'm talking about kind of like how this is. I'm completely from like a performance background as a musician and theater director. But so this like technology with like art is a really exciting opportunity to explore about how do we engage the audience like differently through like gaming, so they can be actively joining this as the part of the characters who push for the story. So it's basically borrowing what game already does, but to bring it to dance and music. Then we have like and to the storytelling, and that's a very exciting new ways we do. And then we do so the technology part here is like to use the VR and depth sensing camera, the Kinect, to connect the dancers in Hong Kong and then UK to dance together. And then we use the music. What is the technology we use for music here? So it's a WebRTC, right?
WebRTC, yeah, it's all done. The 3D videos are coded into it to the video. The barcode on the side that says where the camera is in space, color image and a depth image. That's turned into a 3D video sent over and then everyone who's playing the game picks it up, and it goes into we use Unity and the music as well is live streamed. So Anting will play her piece, but then we also have we haven't mentioned the soprano in Hong Kong also.
It's an opera singer.
Who's singing at the same time, and then that's mixed together. Put out to everyone playing the game. And the idea is that the people playing the game are experiencing the story, but they're also bow to the live.
Yes,
Cool.
that's kind of like it's a performance combining gaming and like a VR technology. And yeah, so I mean, Donna was saying about he's a dancer, but our dancer job is actually really difficult. Just imagine yourself break dance, like inside of the VR. Have you tried that?
Kind of, but
No.
I want to point out in the video here, the dancer here is doing some crazy stuff. Like he's standing up from laying down like almost effortlessly, which is insane. But also, he's freaking dancing around with an axe with a VR headset on. Like, what the hell's going on there?
Exactly. Yeah, like complain about being a little bit dizzy sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you don't actually see how acrobatic Sai, this dancer that you're seeing, is. Like he goes full hip hop, spinning around on his head later on, which is quite difficult in VR, I think.
It has a headset stay on doing that.
Yeah,
He
he's
has
got
a-
an
he has a
extra
chin
strap
strap.
on it. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
we made a
just-
custom show strap.
you hear the stories where people's controllers go flying into their TVs and things. This axe has no like wrist strap on it. Like that just seems a little awkward.
It's a souvenir.
Yeah,
for the
I don't
crowd,
think we'll
whoever
actually have
catches
that
it.
in the live performance. Basically.
It just goes straight into the audience.
Whoever gets it keeps it.
Yeah. But yeah,
I think
what you guys-
one of the
Oh, go ahead.
sorry, go on.
I was gonna say what you guys are talking about and what we're seeing here, that I don't know, that's so much going on, and like just to do what we're doing in this podcast is enough for me. But I can't believe the level you guys are on, and I'm just curious, like, so you're doing it from Hong Kong to the UK, like lag has to be kind of your biggest enemy for these kind of timing things, is it not?
Yeah,
does it not?
I mean, it's really interesting how the dancers have had to adapt what they do to cope with the lag. It's less than you might think. It's about half a second.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Um,
what you are fighting. The
Yeah, I
magnitude
mean,
you're
so
fighting
there's a
about.
lot of easy technology you can do if you're happy with like a few seconds lag. It's much easier. But if you want to go like as low lag as possible, then you have to do some custom stuff. But they do things like if you move slowly, and obviously they're choreographed, so they can kind of predict how the other guy's moving. But I think your brain is kind of designed to cope with this kind of stuff. Like we have
Yeah,
lag
fill in the
in
gaps.
Yeah.
yeah. And they definitely get a real sense of presence with each other. And with it being with the 3D cameras, it's a really a kind of unique experience seeing your body digitized in the world. Like you look down and you see yourself in pixels. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, when they start to like calibrate themselves before each like sort of session, and when we tried that ourselves, it's just so strange when you're like moving within your body.
And then some guy in Hong Kong walks through you. Very
Yeah.
Yeah, occasionally kind of like just like we rehearse and then somebody just walks through in a space that's or like or the surrounding just watching by the tree look like a ghost. So it's really fun.
Yeah, looks really
Yeah,
cool.
but lag, the other thing about lag is like musically, it's just also very difficult because music when we play together is normally just like need to be just really together. But
Yeah.
so kind of in terms of this half second like a lag, so we kind of like just the composition just really need to work with that. So it's a particular kind of like a composition like for taking account into the lag to be composed. And so that's but if lag is like more than like half a second, it will become just really obvious. But like kind of a half second is like a really good challenge in a way for choreography as well as like a music composition.
Sure. So do you have to write songs and music with kind of more of like an open thing instead of more like a right on time thing, or do you just kind of go with it? Or
I mean, there are different parts where kind of like just in terms of evolve feet sound where really well known. It's like the melody with I play electronic music live as well, so we both play live, so we can respond to each other kind of in a way where it doesn't affect. It's hard to describe, and also because the latency is really stable, so so there are actually really strong beats inside of this music so as well. But if like she's always half beat earlier or have like bit late, and then it's actually sounds good. So like because this is really stable, yeah. But I mean, you should you join this and then to hear that and to see because it's really fun and a very different way to overcome this kind of latency. But latency is absolutely one thing we have to think so strongly about them.
Sure.
We'd like to, I mean, maybe not for this round of performances, but we want to do a VR version for the audience as well. That will come later.
Yeah, the reason we are starting doing kind of like the just laptop desktop version, like Windows and Mac OS apps. So that's how digital audience are going to join. They join through downloading the app. So but the reason. So one of the important reasons, this is a arts project, so access is really important. So we need to make sure as many people as possible to be able to experience this. But once we kind of go through the first round, and then because the whole world existing in VR already, so that's, Science and the two dancers, they are always in VR to see the whole world in VR. And then anytime when we have our team member to just try to see, they were just like, oh my God, we didn't know this world is there. I don't know, you can talk about when you see your design in VR, it's very different, right?
Yeah, definitely a different take on it. But I'm still kind of I'm still not very used to the whole VR because I still get kind of nauseous.
Oh yeah.
From it's just one of those problems which I can never seem to. I don't know, maybe take those sea pills, when you go on boats.
Sea pills.
There's a lot of different steps you can do to kind of offset it until it kind of you get used to it. But yeah, that's definitely a challenge and a hurdle.
Yeah, but how do you feel, Dana, when you because you design all of your trees and houses kind of in on a computer, but when you went into the world to see the trees actually big, how did you feel about that?
I mean, I'm always very critical of my work sometimes, and it's kind of it's always oh, I could do that a bit better, and then you learn some new tricks of doing something else, and each time I'm always oh, I can definitely do this better. But also, we always got time constraints with these projects. But hopefully that this is really pushed in terms of how I approach actual 3D design to the point where some of the textures are all kind of painted digitally. And then painted digitally on an iPad, and then I would extrapolate that into another program, and then kind of mix it together with other ones. So I'm still, even though it's all digital, I still apply a lot of hand brush techniques to a lot of the textures. Nice.
Yeah, we've had a few devs and I apologize. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the assets you shared into our space, but when they give us assets, if it's a little item in their game and we kind of blow it up and stick it in the corner or something, they're like, I've never seen my work in this way before. So it's got to be a similar feeling where you step in, Ann Ting was saying, step into that world the first time in VR from working on the tablet or whatever you're doing, just seeing the massive scale of tree, just I don't know, game's still blowing me away. So I can't imagine you seeing your own work that size is just got to be that's building a skyscraper almost if you think about it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've designed a lot of skyscrapers.
Yeah, Donald's an ex-architect, so
oh wow,
designed skyscrapers.
Yeah, I quit my job. Well, actually, I shouldn't really say this because my parents don't know. They won't be watching this.
Breaking news.
Donald.
Oh, no, I forgot this is getting recorded, but it's okay. No one's. My family are very digitally illiterate, and so even when I asked them to come to the show, they were like, nah.
Aw.
But yeah, I quit my job to concentrate on this on full time.
Wow, that's nice. That's passion, and that you definitely see it in the final product. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
thanks.
Yeah. And I mean, Ian, you also like spend over a lot of like time here and just like, I mean, what's it? It's. I mean, you normally design other like commercial apps and different things, and you can get a lot of like more money from. And so like about your, so
Well, yeah,
doing artistic project here, right?
art is it's not traditionally well paid either compared to dev work, but this is going to the soul.
Yeah,
Ian, you're
I
real
think-
quiet. Could you get a little closer to the mic, maybe?
Okay.
I know you guys are probably like face to face right now, but
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. So
Every time he gets a little
Yeah.
quiet, I like lean in towards
Yeah.
the thing to see if I can hear better.
Yeah.
And it
I
just,
mean,
it's not
Ian,
work.
you can, yeah, I think Ian, you can talk a little bit more about your role here because it's a bit like I mean, for us, when I say for us, it's for artists. It's actually really weird to work with a technologist. So like because it's like completely different language we are speaking, and so like and we can just like we like to have like a really mad idea to just build different things, but it's work digitally kind of and technology wise it's just really different. But for Ian, he coming as a technologist, like developer, but as well as like as a very strong artistic input. So that's a very blurry of like these different roles. And Ian, can you talk a little bit more about your role here and so kind of about how it's different?
Well, I mean, we've all come together with an idea of what we wanted to do, and I think the flow has brought us together. It's very interesting. I think we're all going to create something that we wanted to create. But when we come together, it makes it unique. Like you're surprised by the other stuff that everyone else brings. Yeah, I mean, theatre. I mean, me and Anting first worked together on a previous project, which was another digital theatre piece, and that was during the lockdowns of the pandemic. So the theatre industry in the UK was basically completely shut down. A lot of people were just not doing anything, and we found a way to still create some theatre. And there's a lot of fear of digital stuff in the theatre industry in particular, I think. But it's definitely the future, and
we need to talk a little bit more about that because that's where we won our Digital Culture Award in the UK. So where we can so Arts Council England kind of they have this Digital Culture Award, and we won that. So that's enabled us to do home acts. And then it's worth to say, so we built a 3D gallery. And then so Ian also using the gaming technology where the audience join as avatars and seeing the exhibition as well as the performance. So I mean, Donald is one of the exhibition artists, so he has a 3D design here, and Ian is a creative technologist as well. So that's and that was really funny. Ian, do you remember? So like some producer come in and to say, we need to have the bar for the stairs.
Yeah, because everyone applies what knowledge they have to. If they see something new, they apply what they already know to it, and they're asking about health and safety, about people dropping from a great height in the game, whether that was safe or not. So yeah, it's interesting. Everyone sees it in their own lens. And it took a lot of convincing. I mean, Anting is very good at convincing people. I think. I witnessed a lot of meetings where there were some very skeptical people who eventually came around, and it became this really amazing thing that happened. 2021 when not a lot of theatre was going on.
It kind of opens the whole door with how we actually exhibit anyway, with this whole virtual space, because you're not limited to anything really. How do you in the old days where they'd be like, okay, we won't move away from the white box, so we're going to go outside, and then we're going to have stuff which is kind of like more like performative in the sense that it's kind of moving around and changing. And now we've got this digital space where it's kind of like, it's no holds bars.
Yeah. It's, and Ting I was going to bring this up at some point, but like I said, I love part of VR that I love is I can visit things I maybe can't in real life, whether it's lockdown or a location thing. But so, I've been to a couple galleries in VR, and it's awesome because, like I said, otherwise I'd never see these things. But then it's like after a while, it's like, okay, if you think of an art gallery, it's like, okay, we have this normal art gallery in VR and it's really cool. But why does it have to be like 4 walls and a ceiling and a floor? Like maybe I ride a giant turtle to look at the next painting. Like the creativity, like there's no limits, like you were saying, like you can literally do anything you want. So it'd be nice to start seeing like what you guys are kind of doing, like getting away from the old way of thinking about it, like the 4 walls and all that.
Yeah, totally.
There's a lot of devs out there doing it, but like for the start, and I get it, you want to just make sure like, hey, you can do these things in VR and they work really well and it's really cool to see. But it's like, okay, and then take the next step and really let your mind go, type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think HomeX is really where we allow ourselves to go mad. So HomeX is we are like, I mean, the story basic is about we human beings we detect about this random metaverse, like which shouldn't exist, but there are some creatures in this metaverse, and then so human beings are able to escape and then at that point human beings are very bad already kind of in the world. I mean, probably we are not that far away, but just like and then we want to escape it, just like we want to try Mars, try different planets. But then this is the other direction where we try metaverse. We detect something which shouldn't exist there, and the way to go there is through like meditating and then with like to go into this computing space, like to transform your mind into this space, and then where you met these like native creatures in this space, and having the encounter like human beings are finding our next home where we are. So yeah, so I mean, the reason I'm talking about revealing this like storyline is about because it's just like what we are imagining about this virtual space is really. It should be unlimited, really, and it's a completely different planet. Like we are, like create and so different rules, and so yeah. So like but the other thing is like how do we communicate with people? Because I guess like most of your guests and you both are kind of are really like just interested in technology and so or work in technology, like so these things are so common and like for you, and it's just like one bubble of the world in a way, but the other bubble side of like, I mean, the bigger side of the world is like people are actually quite scared of technology. Yeah. Like I'm talking about almost like a whole theater industry in the UK, like very, very, very conservative. Is I
mean, one thing that we've also done with VR recently is we made so we're performing in the Barbican. They weren't confident about how many people we could sit in the area while also keeping it immersive and all that. So we built a model in VR of the theatre space, all the seating, or put some fake people in, and we could look at all the sight lines and understand how the space would feel in a much more intuitive way than if you're just kind of looking at a CAD file or something like that. And that's been really useful.
Yeah, but the thing is like it seems like actually really straightforward, right? It's of course when you build a virtual like a VR version of the theater, and then with I mean we also run the game kind of like in this VR space. I mean when I say run the game, so you see we have a projectors like projections, like 3-side projections. So we actually the 3-side projection is a moving image, is connecting to another VR project. So you really see the project live, and then with the dancers and the musician like in a 3D kind of like a space. But But kind of like when we talk to some other, I mean, when people see that, they all kind of like are convinced, oh my God, this is amazing. But when we were just talking about this like idea, so some like other theater artists or like producers, and they are just like, no, I mean, there's like a very particular way why we need a physical thing, and to create this kind of like small physical like models, and so which really doesn't give the director a really good sense about what the stage is really like. But there is still a strong rejection, even like with this kind of, I feel is obvious, like a straight ahead forward. And I mean, but because nobody in the theater circle is like kind of like really able to just really create a theater in VR. But that just makes so much more sense instead of like just using a lot of material to do some models. Yeah. So that's the other good application in terms of
it's also
VR.
more sustainable using all this.
Right. So that's interesting. Like, like you said, if you're in the space and your mind is geared that way, it makes a lot of sense. But outside people, so like Donald quitting his job, going full time, and you guys, really trying to push the boundaries, knowing that most of the population really isn't there yet. Like Donald's poor tech deficient family he mentioned. That's what really intrigues me about developers and VR especially. Like, you guys are pushing the technology and the creativity, knowing that it's going to be an uphill battle, because a lot of people, like some people don't even want to hear it. Other people don't understand it when you do tell them. And then you get like maybe 10% like, okay, well, just show me, open-mindedness. So you guys have a lot of, I think it's a very brave thing you do, and it really intrigues me.
Thanks.
Yeah. You will see our first like VR version for this one.
Yeah. I mean,
I was going to say, if you need a test or anything, I'm definitely free. And speaking of that, you guys have tickets available for February kind of starting off, right? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, so we run from 10th to 25th of like February, where like people are like so now is the digital version is on the PC or MacBook, so like it's Windows and Mac OS apps, like you can download. That's for February round. Yeah, and then we have like the physical performance as well in the UK.
I mean, yeah, there's obviously there's yeah, like you said, like 10% of people who might be interested, or even less, who have like, who want to play a game or anything. But the thing about this is it's worldwide. Like we can have people from all over the world coming together and playing in the same performance. So
yeah, that's really neat.
That's kind of like what you said. I think it's what we like. We found the most exciting thing in this kind of a digital performance. Like in our previous work, like I mean, we normally perform. I mean, in theater and music, kind of like here. So like the interaction you have with just like in terms of like a Zoom or like or YouTube live is really limited. But in our previous like game production, that was really fun to play with people from different parts of the world. I mean, that's a very important incentive, like where we want to create another one which connect people from different parts of the world, because it's really make a difference where you make your work in one place, but you can reach to people in different parts of the world. I mean, deeply, not just like kind of like on the 2D level, but in a 3D level. That's a very different way.
There was an interesting phenomenon with the previous production where we had so that depending on the time zone, it's a better time for different places. So we had a predominantly London audience for one show, and you could see that the kind of typical London audience just stand there stroking their chin and don't really say anything, and you could almost see that digitally. And then we had an audience that was it was mostly Taiwanese, and
like
they were
Asian based.
Yeah, Asian based, and they were running around and having lots of fun and like hearting each other and
Yeah, even in a game as
awesome.
avatars, you can see like different culture having different characters.
Yeah. That's really cool.
But the other thing we found from the previous production where we like that to HomeX is also like there's still really magic thing about physically kind of bonded together. So that's kind of like and then technology actually can enable both sides to exist. And so that's why we continue to this HomeX, which is like and it's everything live, and then you see physical performers as well as like a digital. So that's just like open up a lot of more things. And then through like so, 3D is just a completely different field from 2D, like the engagement kind of in the 3D. So like in terms of how your brain see this, it just place you in that place immediately, no matter you are seeing the projector screen or you see that on the computer screen. Of course, like VR headset will be ultimate, kind of like a much more immersive, but it's very different from when you see a 2D things, which is that's just a very different language from this project.
It's always been.
No. Yes, no, sorry.
And I was just saying, like, it's always been difficult to like explain when I've talked to my friends about this project, and it's like everything's live. Like what the music you're listening to is played live. There's someone in a room that and the people that are dancing are also live, and it's trying to get their head around the fact that it's like, oh, can I come a bit later? No, you can't. They won't be on.
That's a restriction, but also a strength, I think, in terms of everything is live.
Yeah.
It's just like we've talked about before, like back in the day, like there was more strict rules in like TV shows, and you couldn't swear and do these things, and it made more creativity, pushing those boundaries type of thing. Same thing. Also, time zones are fun. Like obviously, like right now, it's very early in the morning for Wookie and I, and it's afternoon for you guys. So hitting that worldwide audience with everything being live, like I've gotten up at like 2 a.m. to do things in VR in other time zones. So it's like I said, it's the passion's there.
Yeah, you really. Oh, so this time it's like work for most other parts of the world. That's why kind of like you have this one for the international guests, right?
Yep.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, because we are playing with that a lot as well. So it's like like our Hong Kong partners actually, because it's still more the UK based project. So we need to have like 7:30 p.m. as like our daily performance, and that's in Hong Kong is actually 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
So the dancer is like there, and the soprano, they are in Hong Kong dance and sing every day at 3:30. In Hong Kong. But it's amazing because they are all kind of like quite late. Just the performers are quite late work per people, so they don't really mind about that. But that's a really fun thing in terms of like the time difference and in which time of the performance you see which part of the world. Well, that's fascinating.
Yeah, so Wookie and I we've done a few different types of like live audience VR things. I just did a thing with Brendan Bradley's group where it's himself and a musician in a room streaming live, and then they're controlling the world digitally, and it was me and a couple people in there going through the experience, and they're doing the voices, they're doing the music, all right there on the fly, and interacting with you, which when you do that in VR, like it's very, very unique and something that you just don't get anywhere else. Like they're looking at you, talking to you, and whether they're the size of like a giant or whatever it is, the story. It's just insane how you guys can make all this come together and work really well and really individualize it for anyone participating. Like that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I think the dream for maybe a future performance would be like if all the audience could be there and like filmed in 3D, and then you can all just see each other. Like that would be quite cool.
Yeah, that's what Ian want to carry on developing to like a simple package of this like a depth sensing, because in a way like phones can do 3D scan already, right?
Yeah. So I might, after this is finished, get the camera thing on the iPhone or something, because when I look at the the avatar stuff in Meta Quest and stuff, like they're kind of like they feel slightly dead. Like there's like this kind of corporate feel to them. The dead
Yes.
eyes of Zuckerberg, kind of like looking at you. Yeah, I think they're working on this kind of stuff as well. But,
Yeah, how do we kind of so how do people join VR as a like what are we like? What do we look like? I think it's an important part as well. Do we want to have this as a like the normal avatar kind of like a thing just quite fixed, or can we have another option which
Yeah.
is more fluid? Like
it's quite fun being a different body as well. I mean, I've tried out VR chat, and my first 5 minutes, there's this little cat ran at me. I think it was like a 10-year-old running around as a cat, saying, "Yeah, I'm a cat," and throwing food at me. That was my VR chat experience, and yeah, it's quite fun.
It's weirder.
Yeah. That's like the first comment when someone joins our space, like, oh, this is interesting, and this works right now for us and stuff. But that presence in the avatar, like to a lot of people, is like the most important thing. Where some people, like me, as long as I'm in there and having fun, I don't care. But I understand that. But yeah, it's also trying to make, you can't please everyone. So what makes most the people that are like into your thing happy? So you got to kind of go with that too. It's one of the VR things that you got to think about.
yeah, totally.
It's amazing how much communication you do just through your hands when you're talking. Like,
Yeah.
Some people are like, we got these pills, and some people are like, you really need hands. And we get some people like our guest last week or the week before, maybe, who were like making shapes and stuff, and they're having a great time because you can't do that if you have hands. They're like, this is awesome. They're like playing with Lego.
Yeah, I love my presence of the hand here. It's nice.
Well,
Almost want to
especially
play some.
for a podcast, just talking. Like I said, we started out audio only, and it's like it's a way different world where like you see the emotions and expressions, and it's way more interactive, where it makes it more lively instead of you're just staring at nothing and talking to someone you've never met or talked to. Like this makes it a lot easier.
They turn on the
I still feel
webcam
it.
and then thing lags.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it still feel quite surreal, to be honest. Like somebody, like just you like it's like the head, and so like no, I think it's really fun. And what make you guys like want to do a VR podcast?
Well, it's funny because I was telling Donald before everyone else joined kind of the story, but we did a podcast for like 6 years a long time ago with just friends, and it just came out of us playing games and having fun. Kind of retired that. Our most downloaded episode though was one Wookie and I did without our friends, and it was about VR, and it kind of was crazy. So when we got into VR, it's like there's one podcast about VR, so I'm like, let's do something. So we got into VR, and back then it was a pain in the butt to get into VR.
For
So we're
regular
trying to
consumers, what do you buy, and like, do you need any accessories? Because the sets were expensive, and for like the Rift, Oculus Rift headsets, do you need a third sensor? How do you get that to work? And all this sort of stuff. So we were trying to be like, oh, we had to go through all of it. So let's try to help other people, and that's sort of that.
But then, like Wookie and I are brothers. When we play stuff, we don't talk a lot. We kind of communicate telepathically, I think. So it's like we did a couple episodes. I'm like, I don't like hearing myself talk. We should just have guests. So we started having guests, and that's all we did. But so we were audio only, and then it's the Spatial Ape team, who is just now coming back to the VR scene. They were building like a trade show in VR, and like, hey, come do your show in our space in VR, and we're like, yes. And then they closed down, so we kind of had to spin up our own thing pretty quickly, and working on growing it from there. But ever since, we just try to bring in devs every week and talk to them and get their backstory. Like, the thing that drives me nuts. I'm a gamer by heart, but talking to devs and all that, just hearing their side of the story of like the time, the money, the blood and tears they put into these things, and they don't get a lot of like, you know, not eyes on their project, or all they get is some person commenting in a review like, hey, your game sucks type of thing. So it's like,
yeah, played for 5 minutes, this is awful. And
yeah, it's like, no, there's a whole life that's behind this. I want to hear those stories and share that, so you know, you can kind of bridge that gap between the purchasers and the people doing all the incredible work like you guys are. That's kind of how
Yeah,
we got
no.
started.
That sounds good, kind of to hear. Even just to hear you say like lots of like people share their tears and like things that I feel better already. So like there are definitely like difficulty.
Yeah, it's made us crawl out of our den holes today.
And
yeah,
you guys might be the first ones that might actually have like just, you know, your blood, sweat, and tears thing with actual blood with the act dancer. I think anybody's actually hurting themselves
Yeah.
with physical items, but that could.
Yeah, I mean the audience. Yeah, audience is like I mean we don't know what's going to happen to the audience like when they see that. I mean we're really looking forward to, because you know like last year when we had like our like a gaming like our gaming production. So I mean that's lots of, I mean first young people they are native for this one, so like from like they are like 5 years old, 6 year old, everybody's like really just go straight into the game and then they are able to play. I actually don't understand why, but just like but young people, they can just play straight away.
Yeah, the hands go straight to the WASD keys.
Yes,
Yep.
yeah, even if they are not gamer, but they can just play. It's so weird. But for older people, it's very weird. I mean, I don't want to define that. I mean, we are not like young either. So, but for like for some old people, kind of like it's just almost like impossible. It just no matter how
This is my wife playing a 3D game, like just running into the wall. Or just staring at the floor, spinning in a circle.
It's very interesting, isn't it?
It's when they get introduced to it later in life versus early in life. The age doesn't matter. It's like I remember our nephew when he was a little kid playing some tank game on the Dreamcast. Beat the crap out of his dad who'd played some games before. Like he had a big PC game, stuff like that. So he's playing this thing on the controller, and this little, I don't know what he was, 8?
Maybe.
Destroyed him, and we were kind of like, that's weird. Like he never even played it before, and he just deathmatch over. So yeah, that's always an interesting facet.
Yeah, and so we had like a few kind of reviews, like critics, like they are quite like big critics, but we could see them in the performance. They were just stuck in one corner and not able to come out. And afterwards, I forget they were just talking about, we don't see anything, but the story is good. And so like because you were stuck there all the time. So it's just it's very hard for a theater critics and to come into this kind of like a world and to start to review things.
Yeah, it's amazing what we take for granted once you understand games, once you play games. Like I tried to get my dad into the game, and he was like, well, when I press the W key, that the text, like the objects in front of me gets bigger, and then when I press S, it gets smaller. I was like, yes, Dad, you're a thing in a 3D space. You're moving, but so all of that he had to kind of learn, and he got his head around it.
That's actually really cute. Yeah. Like, it's getting bigger.
Getting bigger. That's another perspective.
Yeah, and with the like live performance stuff, like I said, we've been in a couple. My feedback normally is to the team, like, you have to tell the people in the performance like what you expect from them, because if you don't tell them it's interactive and you want them to like play along, they don't, like, as that person, you're like, okay, am I supposed to say something? Can I say something? Where I go in and I just kind of goof off and try to make things silly, but it's like you have to really make that clear, because the first couple I was in, I just stood there and I'm like, I don't know if I'm supposed to interact or just listen to the story or what. And then at the end, when you figure it out, like, oh, I could have played a lot more with the actors, you feel kind of bad because you just like, let's bump on a log, So you just gotta let people know what they can do and what they shouldn't do, because you also don't want that person in there like really just messing up your performance by doing, crazy things.
Getting in the way.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's about, because it's also unlimited in a way, kind of in the virtual space, and then you don't, and then I think the interaction between human being, I mean, in a physical space, it's developed for like thousands of years, and and also still it's very different from the different countries and having different culture. So going into the virtual space, like, we kind of like just need to develop a new culture, but it's also need to see a little bit first, like what people will want to do as well, to invent this new kind of like a equity. What is? Oh, it's yeah.
Yeah, because to that point, like even in VR, like whether you're used to it or not, like if I go up to Wookiee like this, like you get uncomfortable. Like I had a team walking me through a game that hasn't come out yet, and they're from, a different culture, and one guy was just kind of like in my face, like trying to like play with me, and it doesn't bother me at all. So I was playing back, but the other two guys on his team were like, "Hey, get away from him! Like, leave him alone! You're freaking him out!" Like, so yeah, it's kind of funny how that stuff translates as well into VR just naturally.
Yeah, I tried out on space first time, and at first I kind of just thought it was a game, so I was listening to them talking to each other, and then you just got this really uncomfortable feeling that I'm just like this weird guy at this party not saying anything and lurking next to these groups.
Yep.
And whereas like regular gamers might have a hard time adapting to VR, because like when we first started playing VR, playing like Pavlov with the shooting game, in a regular like Xbox game, when you're shooting, you can just kind of like move your joystick and reload your gun. You're like behind cover. But in 3D, VR, when you're supposed to actually duck, you don't think of it because you never had to really do that. So I'm sitting there like reloading a gun and having to do all this, and BJ's just shooting me because I'm like, oh yeah, I have to do stuff.
Skate shooting.
You probably have that same thing, because like a regular gamer who might be used to VR and everything isn't really used to always, attending a play, especially an interactive one. So they might, just like, the folks that had games introduced to them later in life don't quite pick up on it as quick. You have the best gamer ever probably sit there and not know what to do because they're not used to a actual performance. They don't go to the theater a lot. There's probably all sorts of things to consider with that.
Yeah. We added.
Yeah, it's kind of like how to kind of guide them.
Yeah, exactly.
We added the ability for the avatars to shoot each other. There was some debate about that, about whether we should keep it in or not. There were also people who wanted to make it so you can make it more interactive. So when you shoot another avatar, something happens. But we thought maybe not make it too fun to do that, because they'll just end up spending the whole hour shooting each other.
We can attest to that.
Yeah, it'll break down real quick. What if you had it like, can the attendees, the viewers, swarm the dancers and change the story?
Exactly. It's just, but it was really fun, because it's like everybody was trying to kick one dancer away. Like in our test like of the story, because we have like a kind of like bad guy and good guy for the dancer, and then all the avatars working together to fight the other dancer, which is really fun. So it's good. They have shooting ability. So yeah, but not too much, because otherwise it's changed to another game.
Well, yeah, and then there's it's a kind of a problem for game design, where you want to make the story as interactive as possible, but then you also have a story to tell. So we can't let them kill one of the dancers, because he's important.
Yeah.
So
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just it would be interesting to try an even more interactive one where the story really changes.
Yeah.
Depending on that. But yeah, it's like it has to go down a certain track eventually.
Yeah, it's just like what you were talking about is about how to is to tell the audience like where to go in some way. Like because when it's too unlimited, people might not get any story either. Yeah. So that's kind of like so still to see. And I mean the other thing about the gaming thing is like there are just some thing which is addictive. Like and then just very stupid simple thing like what we were talking about, cutting the tree. Cutting the tree is very addictive. Like I mean Ian when he was like building this game and when he built this cutting the tree, every time he has to cut every tree to do his task.
Yeah, I get that. I could play a game where all you do is chop trees down in VR and I'd be in there for weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was like, you built this, and then why do you still play this? Yes.
I could literally press the delete button in Unity and do something about going in there, clicking that button, and chopping things.
Yeah. So then what we needed to do was like actually to make things just like some like a gaming in like a direction where it's something which is addictive when we want people to do more. Something is not as addictive because we don't want people to do much, but to unfold the next story kind of like thing. So there's addictive and not as addictive kind of like a thing to do.
Like in a normal game lobby, if there's a jump button, people just stand there and jump. Or even here, I was telling Donald, we have a monthly VR dev roundtable where we have a bunch of devs in here. And if you watch the video, a lot of them will just sit here and go like this for an hour. Like, it's like, what are you doing? Like, it's really distracting. Or you'll have one guy just go around the table for like an hour. It's like, what the hell is going on?
If you move your left joystick just enough and then tilt your right one, you can just drift around the table.
Yeah.
And then you get people doing like that for an hour. Wow.
Yeah. It's
I think I'll just throw up if I kept on doing that.
Yeah, we've gone through the wall.
But yeah, I'm definitely.
Yeah, I quite liked it sometimes when we had the tests that we would have.
Sorry, there's some lag there. Go for it.
Planting.
Oh, sorry, I didn't I don't know when.
No, I was just saying like.
Yeah, continue. Sorry. Yeah, so like you continue.
I was gonna say, so yeah, you guys have some shows in February. I'm gonna look at the times, and if I can hit one, I really want to check it out.
Yeah, no, totally. Yes, please.
I think it'll be
definitely come see it.
Early afternoon for me when your shows are happening, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, we do think about like the North America time, like American time, and so kind of Asia time, and so something. So I think our time can work with like the UK evening time can work with North America time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're at 7:30, it's probably at 5:30 for me. Or 2:30.
Is it 5:30 for you?
2:30.
2:30. Yeah.
Yeah. Hours different. So probably. What would it be for you?
I'm an hour behind you. So right now it's 8:15 in the morning. What is it? And you guys is
2:15 in the afternoon.
Yeah, this is a perfect time for us. Yeah, I'm sorry you have to wake up so early on Saturday.
We get up early anyway. It's fine. It's totally fine. Like I've gotten up at 3 or 4 in the morning to play like Demio with friends in Japan, so don't worry about it.
Okay, that's a good angle to think about. Gamers actually are not worried about this. I mean, our Hong Kong like dancer, he's also a very big gamer. That's also a part of the reason why he is completely fine to do late evening, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've spent many nights playing games till 5 in the morning.
Yep.
Yeah. So we don't need to worry too much about their time. Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weekends are open, but during the weekday, I get up early for work, so I can't do those things. But weekends, I can.
Great. It's cool. Yeah, we'll send you like invite and to come, and you can feedback as well for like whether the game
Yeah.
like fulfill you, and so like yeah, it'll be fun.
I like to join too. It's my favorite thing that I didn't know I liked until seeing like live performance stuff. 'Cause I was a theater kid in school a little bit. Is like reenactments, telling stories, not just plays and stuff, but like telling stories with this kind of stuff. This just speaks to me. So I love it when you tell stories, especially destruction of nature for population growth and stuff. It really speaks to me. I like it. I'm interested in watching one.
Yes.
Yeah, it's cool. But,
So-
obviously we're trying to tell this story without being too preachy. Because
Yeah.
I think it goes okay.
What's your guys' schedule? Do you kind of plan like a
Yeah, we're
month
definitely-
of
yeah.
shows and then take a break and then do another month, or what's your guys' like roadmap look like?
I mean, now we are just like working on the premiere for for February premiere for the. I don't know how many performances. It's like 11 performances to start with, and then we will
Okay.
because it's all go with live performances, so it's more complicated than just working a virtual space. It's we
Sure.
basically go into like a theater York to start with, and then Cambridge Junction and Barbican. So and these performances are booked kind of like a year ago, kind of like. So we are going to see after this round of the like the first round of the performance and see how it go, and then to release again like afterwards, I think. And then I think the next release is absolutely going to be with the VR version as well. But to start with, we do a more conservative kind of like the desktop and like laptop version.
Sure. That makes sense. Very smart.
Yeah, there are so many moving parts to this that might make the whole thing fall over. So we'll get it right this time, and then add some VR.
Yeah, it's all live. So yeah.
Well, it's been awesome chatting with you guys. I don't want to hold you back too much longer. If there's anything you didn't get to talk about that you want to, just go for it. Otherwise, we'll wrap up.
No, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. It was really fun. It's my first VR podcast. It's really exciting. I love it. I think all podcasts should do VR. It's so much fun.
Same one
more
for me.
Fun. Yeah, it's so much more fun to be in the virtual space than like just looking at the Zoom or that's kind of the radio kind of like a thing, kind of like stare at yourself.
Yeah.
No, it's so much more fun. Yeah, well done.
Yeah. I like what
it
you were
feels like we
saying.
met you actually.
Yeah, it does. It really does. Like, you'd be kind of surprised how many devs we keep in contact with. Like, there isn't enough time. I'd love to talk to everyone all the time, but time is a thing. But yeah, we keep up with people. I try to help test things or give feedback. Wookie does too when he's free. Another thing Wookie was saying, any links or anything, send over. We'll share them in the show notes on the video, the audio, links to the tickets to your website. I have all that, but anything else above and beyond that, let me know.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you'll absolutely receive like a link to the test. Yeah.
High five.
Thank you. Oh, high five.
Ian.
Thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye.
But thanks everyone else for watching this thing.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Definitely check out the performance if you have the option. Be a great time.
Bye bye.